नहमदुहु व नसल्ली अला रसूलिहिल करीम अम्मा बाद फ़ाउज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम. Up till now we have studied simple murakkab idafi, which is a combination of two nouns, but that is not always the case. Murakkab idafi could easily be more than two nouns and sometimes a long series of nouns linked together. So today we are going to study complex or complicated murakkab idafi. Another word for murakkab idafi is idafa, which basically means addition. So we are kind of adding one noun to another noun, or many nouns to a series of nouns, and that's our idafa, which basically means addition. Now let's look at our example. We said the book of the boy. So that's basically what we are saying in Arabic. In English we say the boy's book, but in Arabic we are saying the book of the boy. We translated that as Kitabul Waladi. Mudaf, mudaf ilayh. We know that mudaf can take any i'rab depending on its position or place in a sentence. Mudaf ilayh is always majroor. Mudaf cannot take tanween and it cannot take al either. So because of that, mudaf kind of stands out in a writing. You can recognize mudaf from a distance just because of the fact that it does not take tanween and there is no al on that either. So it kind of just stands out. So that's the book of the boy, or the boy's book in better English. What if we want to say the page of the book of the boy, or the page of the boy's book? Right. The page of the book of the boy. That's literally what we are saying in Arabic. So our vocabulary here is boy, waladun, book, kitabun, the page, warakun. So as we did in our first video on murakkab idafi, we can do arrows because we know in Arabic mudaf is written first and then mudaf ilayh, which is the other way around in English. In English we say the boy's book, and in Arabic we say it the other way around. So the warak is going to be first, and then this can go to the end, right? So this will become warak. Let's write warak here, and this al walad, and then we can put kitab here in the center. Kitab. Now what about the i'rab? This is the first word in this idafa. So the first word in idafa, we know that it can take any i'rab depending on its position or place in a sentence. But its default i'rab is going to be rafa. So that will be waraku. Now the page of the book. So the book is mudaf ilayh here. This is mudaf, this is mudaf ilayh. And because this is mudaf ilayh, this will be majroor. Waraku kitabi. Now the kitab is mudaf ilayh for warak, but at the same time it is mudaf for al-waladi. Al-waladi. So because this is mudaf at the same time as it is mudaf ilayh, so being mudaf, it's not going to take al and it's not going to take tanween either. So our murakkab becomes then waraku kitabi kitabil waladi. Kitabil waladi. So that's our final murakkab. Waraku kitabil waladi. So we can even make that a bit longer if we would like to. We can say, I think these are the points which I've covered here. Basically, this word which is in the center, this is both mudaf and mudaf ilayh. It is mudaf ilayh for warak and it is mudaf for al-waladi. So if we want to highlight that, that will be mudaf and that is mudaf ilayh. But then at the same time this is mudaf and this is mudaf ilayh. So in the middle word, the rules of both mudaf as well as mudaf ilayh are going to apply. The rules of mudaf are that it is not going to take al and it's not going to take tanween either. And there is only one rule of mudaf ilayh is that it has to be majroor. So that's why it's waraku kitabil waladi. We can't say waraku kitabal or kitabul waladi. It has to be waraku kitabil waladi. Now let us make this sentence even a bit longer. We can say the color of the page of the book of the boy. That's literally what we are saying in Arabic, not necessarily in English. So the color of the page of the book of the boy. So our vocabulary is same except color. Color is lawnun. Lawnun. So the lawn is going to come first in our phrase. So our murakkab is going to be lawnu. It's not going to take, tanween is going to go because it's going to be mudaf. Lawnu, page. This time this is going to be waraki, not waraku, because this is now non-first word in this murakkab. So lawnu waraki kitabi kitabil waladi. Kitabil waladi. So that is our complicated murakkab idafi. This is, if you want to analyze that or elaborate on it, mudaf, and this is mudaf ilayh for this. But at the same time, this is mudaf for kitab, mudaf, and kitab is mudaf ilayh. And then kitab is mudaf for waladi, and then al waladi or walad is mudaf ilayh. So this is just combination of mudaf, mudaf ilayh, mudaf, mudaf ilayh, mudaf, mudaf ilayh. Now in this construction, another way of saying is that this is the first word of idafa, first word of idafa. This is the last word of idafa, or final word of idafa, final word of idafa. And these two are non-first and non-final words. So we can make a statement that the first word in idafa can take any i'rab, and because it's mudaf, it's not going to take tanween, or it's not going to take al. That the final word in idafa can take al. Most of the time it does take al. There are some examples, rare examples, when it could be indefinite. Mudaf ilayh could be indefinite, but usually it's definite. So when it's indefinite, it will take tanween. For example, waladin, it will become a boy, some boy's book. But usually we're talking about a specific boy. So that will take al, and that will always be majroor. But these non-final and non-first words which are in the middle here, which are both mudaf and mudaf ilayh, mudaf and mudaf ilayh, they are not going to take al, and they are not going to take tanween either. But they will always be majroor, because they are both going to be mudaf ilayh as well at the same time being mudaf. So that's our kind of and it may become even longer sometimes. You can keep going on and on and on about it. So that's our complicated murakkab idafi. Let's look at another example. We can say the door of the principal's office or head teacher's office. The door of principal or head teacher's office. Actually, let's write in Arabic style. The door of the office of the principal. The door of the office of the principal or head teacher. So our vocabulary here is door is babun, babun, and office is maktabun, maktabun, and principal or head teacher is mudirun, mudirun, not dal, but it should be ra. Mudirun, mudirun. So our murakkab is going to be Bab will come first here. Babu, the door. Babu, maktabi, maktabi, al-mudiri, mudiri. So Babu maktabil mudiri. Similarly, the first word of idafa, the final word of idafa, and that's in the middle. So the middle one is both mudaf and mudaf ilayh. Mudaf ilayh for Bab and mudaf for mudir. So I hope that has made sense for you. It is really question of becoming used to and doing a bit of practice as well. It's not difficult. It's not a difficult concept. Now let us go back to Jumla Ismiya. We know that Jumla Ismiya has two components. Jumla Ismiya. It has two components. One is Mubtada and other one is Kabr. So Mubtada could be a single word and Kabr could also be a single word. That's what we have practiced up till now, single word. But then Mubtada could easily be a Murakkab. So it could be Murakkab Tawsifi or Murakkab Idafi. Similarly, this could be, Khabar could be Murakkab Tawsifi or it could be Murakkab Idafi. So Mubtada could be a phrase, Khabar may also be a phrase. So let us look at some examples. We can say in Arabic, Al-waladul hasanu. The first we said Al-waladu hasanun. Al-waladu hasanun. The boy is good. Just to recap that, boy is Mubtada, Hasan is Khabar. Mubtada is usually definite, so it's Al-waladu. Khabar is usually indefinite, so that's Hasanun. Mubtada is always in Rafa, Khabar is always in Rafa on their own right. And then from the other two perspectives, other than Jins point of view, Khabar follows Mubtada. So now we want to say good boy is standing. So this will become Murakkab Tawsifi. So this has to become definite as well, because in Murakkab Tawsifi, Sifa follows Mawsuf in all those four aspects of a noun. So we'll say Al Waladul Hasanu. So it's going to lose the mean because it has got al now on it. So al waladul hasanu, standing, qa'imun. So we've got definite, and that's indefinite. And in Jumla Ismiya, we go from definite to indefinite, and that's where is MR comes. Kind of is MR of English comes. But it's not visible in Arabic, in Jumla Ismiya. There's no is MR in Arabic. So what do we have here is, we have this Mawsuf, we have Sifa, Mawsuf and Sifa combine to make Murakkab Tawsifi, and then we have Khabar. Murakkab Tawsifi is our Mubtada. We have Khabar here. Mubtada and Khabar combine to make Jumla Ismiya Khabariya. Okay, so that was an example of Mubtada where we have phrase in the form of a Mubtada or in the slot of Mubtada, and that phrase in this example is Murakkab Tawsifi. Let us see if we can bring Khabar as a phrase. Let us look at this example. We can say this is a new car. This is a new car. So we translate that this will be Haza. It's very, although we have not studied demonstrative pronoun in details, but Haza is a very common word which is used in Quran quite often, and we are all quite familiar with this word. So haza, this. Haza, this. Haza is demonstrative pronoun, and we know that all pronouns are definite. And being definite, this can easily take the place of mubtada. So haza, new car. Sayyaratun, car is feminine. Sayyaratun jadidatun. Jadidatun. So sayyaratun mawsoof, and that is sifa. And because we have said this is feminine because of this ta marbuta or tied up ta, and we know that khabar goes with mubtada as far as number and gender is concerned. So this is really wrong. We cannot say haza siyaratun jadidatun. We'll have to bring feminine demonstrative pronoun here. So which will be hazihi. So that was a mistake. Hazihi. So hazihi. This is feminine of haza. Hazihi sayyaratun jadidatun. We can say, for example, haza kalamun. Let's say, what kind of kalam? Old pen. Qadimun. So here we can use haza because kalam is muzakkar, but sayyara or car is feminine, so we'll have to bring hazihi. Hazihi sayyaratun jadidatun, haza kalamun qadiman. So haza is our mubtada. This is mawsoof. This is sifa. They combine to make murakkab tawsifi, which is our khabar here, and haza is mubtada, and mubtada and khabar combine to make jumla ismiya khabariya. I have an example from Quran here, which is part of ayah number 65 of Surah Yusuf, when his brothers come and they are in search of food, etc., etc. So this is about that part of the story. It's zalika kailun yasirun. Kailun yasiran. When we read this with tajweed, we say kailun yasiran. Yasiran. Haza this, zalika that. So that is a scanty measure. This is ayah number 12, sorry, ayah number 65, surah number 12, which is Surah Yusuf. So that is a scanty measure. That kind of meaning it gives. You can look at different translations and different copies of Quran. There may be more than one translation. So that's again murakkab tawsifi. What kind of measure? Scanty measure. So that's mawsoof sifa construction, and mawsoof sifa combine to make murakkab tawsifi, which is our khabar here. Zalika is a demonstrative pronoun of distance, and we know pronouns are definite, and that is our Mubtada. So Mubtada and Khabar, making Jumla Ismiya Khabariya. Let us look at some examples where we have Murakkab Izafi as our Mubtada as well as our Khabar. We are very familiar with this. Nasrullahi Qareeban. Allah's help is close by. Nasrullahi Qareeban. So Nasrullahi here is Mudaf and Mudaf ilayh. Mudaf plus Mudaf ilayh, and that becomes Murakkab Idafi. Murakkab Idafi, and that's our Mubtada here. And Qareeban is Khabar. Mubtada and Khabar combine to make Jumla Ismiya Khabariya. Jumla Ismiya Khabariya. Now you will say, we have said that Mubtada is always in Rafa, and Khabar is also always in Rafa. We have got Khabar here which is clearly in Rafa, but you will say, oh, this Allahi is Majroor. So how is that going to become Mubtada? So basically in Murakkab Idafi, the main value is given to Mudaf as far as the I'rab is concerned. In other words, I'rab of Murakkab Idafi is shown on Mudaf, not on Mudaf ilayh. So because our Mudaf is Nasru, which is Rafa, and we know Mudaf ilayh is always going to be in Kasra, so that doesn't really matter. So Nasru, it has to be Nasru, not Nasra or Nasri. It has to be Nasru, Nasrullahi Qareeban, and that makes our Mubtada, which is in Rafa here. We have to ignore this. So Nasrullahi Qareeban, Allah's help is close by. Another example, Talabul Ilmi Farizatun. It's Hadith, Talabul Ilmi. Talabul Ilmi Faridatun. Acquisition of knowledge is obligatory. Faridatun. So again, this is Talabu is our Mudaf, and this is our Mudaf ilayh. And Faridatun is indefinite, that's our Khabar. So Mudaf and Mudaf ilayh combine to make Murakkab Idafi, which is our Mubtada, and Faridatun is our Khabar. Let's look at an example in which both Mubtada and Khabar are Murakkab Idafi. And we are all familiar with this as well. Ita'atur Rasuli Ita'atur Rasuli Ita'atur Rasuli Ita'atullahi. So following Rasul is following Allah. It's the same thing. So here we have Mudaf and Mudaf ilayh, which is our Murakkab Idafi. Here again we have Mudaf and Mudaf ilayh. Lafz Jalala is Mudaf ilayh here. And that is again our Murakkab Idafi. So this is our Mubtada. The first Murakkab Idafi is our Mubtada. and this is our khabar. So Mubtada and Kabr combine to make Jumla Ismiya Khabariya. So that's how it works. So both Mubtada and Kabr, they both may be a phrase, and in this example they are both Murakkab Izafi. Now we have studied that Ghair Munsarif Asma do not take Khasra in the state of Jar. We know that. For example, plural of Masjidun is Masajidu. Masajidu. And then that's Rafa, then Nasab will be Masajida. And Jar will also be Masajida. Because this is Ghair Munsarif, if you recall, Ghair Munsarif Asma do not take Khasra in the state of Jar. So this is our Rafa, Nasab, and this is Jar. But what happens when we add al to it and make it definite? Then in Jar it does take Kasra. So we'll say al masajidu al masajida and this will now become al masajidi. Masajidi. Because of al, it has accepted kasra. It has taken kasra. Otherwise, Ghair Munsarif Asma do not take kasra in Halat Jar. So their Nasab and Jar look the same. They appear the same. Now, that was one example, one exception to the rule. Then other exception to the rule is when a Ghair Munsarif Ism takes the place of Mudaf Ilayh, it also then accepts Kasra. So let us look at this example. So this was our first example, which we have already, I think, talked about. We want to say doors of mosques of Allah. The doors of mosques of Allah. That's what we say in Arabic. In English we really say the doors of Allah's mosques. So the doors of mosques of Allah, and we translate that in Arabic as abwabu, babun, abwabun. So abwabu will be no tanween. Abwabu masajidi, masajidillahi. Complicated, murakkab, idafi. Masajidillah. So abwabu is mudaf and masajidi is mudafila. And then masajid is mudaf, and then lafz jalala is mudafila. So masajid here, because of being mudaf ilayh of abwab, it has accepted kasra in state of jar, because here it's mudaf ilayh of abwab and mudaf of lafz jalala. So if we were going to stick to the rule that Ghair Munsarif Asma do not take kasra in jar, then it was going to be abwabu masajidallahi, but that's not the case. When these nouns take the position or the place of mudaf ilayh in a phrase or in a sentence, then they do accept kasra in the state of jar. And here masajid is in the state of jar because of the mudaf ilayh of abwab. So that was one of the important points to be clear about. Now the final point is that we know khabar is usually indefinite. Sorry, khabar is usually indefinite and mubtada is usually definite. But sometimes the khabar could be definite as well, and we have already looked at 2 examples previously. And the third example we have just looked at here, which was ita'atullahi, ita'atur rasuli, ita'atullahi. Ita'atur rasuli, ita'atullahi. Ita'atul rasuli, ita'atullahi. Now we have said that this is our mubtada and this is our khabar, and both are murakkab idafi. Now we know that when mudaf is linked to definite mudaf ilayh, this is considered to be definite. So ita'atu here is definite because it is attributed to a definite mudaf ilayh. Because of that, this is definite. And the same is here. This is definite because it is mudaf to words definite mudaf ilayh. So this is definite and this is also definite. This is mubtada and this is khabar. And here is an example again then, that the khabar in this case is definite. So although khabar is usually indefinite, there are certain examples, there are certain cases where we cannot make khabar indefinite. It has to be definite. And our first example, as you remember, was ana yusufu, for example. Isme alam. When isme alam is khabar, you cannot make it indefinite. Ana yusufu, Surah Yusuf. I am Yusuf. So this is our mubtada, this is our khabar, and khabar here is definite. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.